I'm Ann Dart.
I'm Tracy Stormy.
And I'm Kathy Knight.
And together we are
It Was a Dark and Stormy Book Club,
a podcast for mystery lovers.
Welcome.
If you enjoy our show, please consider contributing to the Dark and Stormy Patreon. By becoming a patron, you will help us create better and quality content. There are also benefits to becoming a patron, such as exclusive content and Dark and Stormy merchandise. Become a supporter at patreon.com/darkandstormybc. Check our website for the link. We appreciate any and all contributions. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the very last episode of 2019. And as a New Year's present, we are going to rebroadcast one of our most popular and one of our favorite episodes.
Back in September of 2018, we were so excited to be able to interview Alan Bradley, who writes the Flavia de Luce mystery series. We started a new segment on the show to honor seasoned writers. We call those In Agatha's Footsteps, and he was our very first one. It was a great interview. We thought that as a gift to you, and so we can take a little bit of a break, that we would rebroadcast it.
Enjoy. Alan Bradley was born in Toronto, Ontario, and grew up in the pleasant lakeside town of Cobourg, Ontario. After a long career in television broadcasting, he took early retirement from the University of Saskatchewan to write full-time. He's published many children's stories as well as lifestyle and arts columns in Canadian newspapers. His adult stories have been broadcast on CBC Radio and published in various literary journals. He has also written several screenplays and taught university-level courses in screenwriting. He was the recipient of the first Saskatchewan Writers Guild Award for children's literature. After writing for several years on the Maltese island of Gozo, Alan Bradley now lives on the Isle of Man.
Alan Bradley writes the Flavia de Luce series, which we have all read and we all enjoy.
We devour them.
We love Flavia. The first book of his Flavia de Luce series, The Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie, won the 2007 debut Dagger Award of the Crime Writers Association in the UK, the 2009 Agatha Award for Best First Novel, the 2010 Dillies, awarded by the International Mystery Booksellers Association, the Spotted Owl Award, given by the Friends of Mystery, and the 2010 Arthur Ellis Award, given by the Crime Writers of Canada for Best First Novel. The Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie has also been nominated for an Anthony Award, a Barry Award, and a McCavity Award. Besides appearing on the New York Times bestsellers list as a favorite mystery of 2009, Sweetness was also, among other honors, an American Library Association nominee as Best Book for Young Adults, a Barnes & Noble's bestseller, and was named to the 2009 Bloomer list. The audiobook version of The Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie was voted Best Audiobook by iTunes. All of the Flavia de Luce books published to date have been New York Times bestsellers and are presently published in 39 countries and 36 languages, and the series has been optioned for television.
I hope you really enjoy this interview. We definitely did. Mr. Bradley was
a delight.
A delight.
True
He
delight. Was gracious.
So enjoy our interview.
We would like to welcome Alan Bradley, who is the author of many Flavia de Luce novels. They're one of my favorite things. I'm always looking forward to the next one to come down the line. It's such a pleasure to welcome you to our podcast.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I feel honored.
Now, were you a precocious child growing up? And how difficult was it to put yourself into the mind of a preteen girl?
Okay, I don't know if I would call it precocious, but I think I was blessed by my mother with the gift of being left alone and being encouraged to read and to read anything that I wanted to, so that I was always allowed to exist in my own space and read whatever I chose to read. And my mother was always very supportive of that, very encouraging. And so I read way beyond my level. I was an early reader, read anything that I could get my hands on from home and the local library. So I suppose some of the things I read would be deemed inappropriate nowadays. If that's what makes a precocious reader, then the answer is probably yes. As far as getting into the mind of an 11-year-old, as Flavia is in the first book, I think that I can get into the mind of an 11-year-old boy. And for a child who has a vast amount of interest and curiosity about the world and what makes it tick, I don't think that there's any difference between girls and boys at that particular age, so I can have a pretty good outlook on what it was like to be 11. I recall being 11, and I remember that tremendous enthusiasm for things, that you were just burning with so much curiosity you couldn't sleep.
Where did the idea for Flavia herself come from?
Well, now that's a story. I had thought when I retired, I'd been thinking for quite a few years that I would really like to write a traditional English mystery story. Notice that I don't call it cozy because I don't like that term, or even golden age. I think traditional is more the way I think of them. I finally had an opportunity to sit down when I was about 68 or 69. I was preoccupied with other things. I started writing what I think of as my Alan Bradley mystery, and I got into it about a chapter or so. A girl wandered onto the page and into the story without my permission. I had never conceived of her, and in fact I didn't know who she was. She just appeared on the page and virtually hijacked the book. As I've said many times, it was a strange time for me because I didn't know what her name was, and if you don't know someone's name, you can't write a book about them. So we started off with quite a lengthy period with me trying to guess her name, and I would go out walking in the morning and just pull names out of a hat. You know, is your name Margaret DeMarchon? And in my mind, this little girl, this Flavia, she wouldn't speak. She would just roll her eyes up to heaven and go. And I think, I don't know how many thousand names I guessed in my walks, but one day I said, "Is your name Flavia Duluth?" And there was just a long and ominous silence, and I ran home. I was like guessing Rumpelstiltskin.
Oh, great.
I had to get my fingers on the keyboard right away, and I started writing, and Flavia just came through. She said it was as black in the closet as old blood, and I had no idea who she was or where she lived, what she was talking about, but as I was typing, I realized that if I was really quiet and just huddled in the corner and didn't say anything and didn't inject any of myself, she would reveal herself, not to me, but to the reader that she had in mind. I was just sort of an intermediary. I was like a piece of conduit, I think, between Flavia and the world. She came pouring through, and here we are 10 books later.
Well, we're really happy she did.
Yes, definitely.
Oh, my.
How do you foresee Flavia's future? Will she grow into adulthood in the books?
Well, there have been suggestions that it would be fun to have Flavia at about 70 looking back and telling what happened to all the people. Flavia, even at 18 or 20, is not going to be the same person that she is at 11 or 12. I think she has so much to say yet and so much to learn that I wouldn't suppose to push her into a premature adulthood. She's getting there slowly on her own. I don't think she needs any threats from me hanging over her head. I suppose it could happen someday, but I don't have anything like that in mind at the moment. I should explain that Flavia is always talking to me. She talks to me in the middle of the night. She wakes up and wakes me up and drops cryptic little utterances that I have no idea what they mean. I haven't the faintest idea. So I have to get up, wake up, try and get myself awake, find a pencil, write it down, and not a clue what she's talking about. It will be a couple of words sometimes. It might be an opinion about something, and so I jot it down. And then when I'm awake, I sort of try to slog through it and find out what it was. Sometimes I don't know for a long time. I might be in the next book somewhere, along about chapter 13 or chapter 14, and all of a sudden these words will come out of Flavia's mouth. I realized that she had been talking to me in advance about a year ago. She had it in mind a long time ahead of me, so I try not to tinker with the process. I don't know very much about it. I'm in awe of it. It's Flavia's gift from the universe, and I have to approach her very reverently and be very careful to try not to tarnish or miscolor her words and ideas. It's weird, but there it is.
Now, are there any plans to do a TV series or a movie about Flavia?
Yes, as a matter of fact, there is a TV series in process, even as we speak. I think they're scouting locations for it. The series had been optioned by Sam Mendes of James Bond fame.
Oh, wow.
For quite a few years, but the production company was sold, and with it, I think, went a number of projects, including the Flavia TV series, but it has since been picked up by another producer. I'm very, very happy about it. You might have seen some preliminary work on the internet or in the films about the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. That is the company that will be producing the Flavia series. I've seen the first script of the first episode of the series, and it's very, very exciting. I know that's hackneyed, but it is exciting.
Are you going to be working as an advisor with them to make sure they stick to the story?
Yes, I have the opportunity to read the scripts and to give them any ideas that I happen to think of. We've already done that to some extent. It doesn't mean that they have to do what I tell them to do, but I can gently suggest it, I think. But they've been very, very, very good about incorporating ideas.
Well, we will definitely look forward to that. Now, I am always impressed with the title of the Flavia books. Do those come first, or do the actual story come first?
That's very perceptive, because usually the titles come first, and they suggest the story. The first book, The Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie, had quite an interesting genesis. My wife had bought me at what was it called? It was like a yard sale. It wasn't a flea market. It was a yard sale. She had bought me an old multi-volume dictionary from about 1901 or somewhere around the turn of that century. And it was wonderful. It was one of those old dictionaries that had little pen and ink drawings for many of the items so that you can see what things look like. And I took to reading it a lot just for browsing. Whenever I wasn't doing anything else, I would grab a volume of this dictionary and pick it up and just open it at random. Like if you were going to the bathroom or something, it's a good way to catch up on word history. I had this book one day. For some reason, it was volume 1 that had A to C or something like that, and it fell open at the word crinkle, and my immediate thought was crinkle. What a good word that is. I haven't heard that for years. I haven't heard anybody say crinkle since I was a child. I wonder why we don't use it more. And in the dictionary, each word had several examples of how it had been used by great writers. And for crinkle, there was an entry for a gentleman named King, who had written in the 1600s a cookery book, which was entirely in rhyme. Using the word crinkle, his quotation went something like, "Unless some sweetness at the bottom lie, who cares for for all the crinkling of the pie.
Ah.
And instantly I thought, that's book title. The sweetness at the bottom of the pie, it's a book title. And as it turned out, I didn't use it for years, maybe 10. This preceded the book by a very long time. And when I was writing, taking Flavia's dictation madly, not knowing what it was, about halfway through the book, you can almost find the page if you read it. It suddenly struck me, I'm writing the sweetness at the bottom of the pie.
It's great.
So that was the first book. The other ones tended to be things from